best player. Micah Parsons trying to work things out with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, unable to up until this point, and Micah Parsons made it known on social media, I can't take it much more. So I need to get your initial thoughts before we get the rest of the panel. You see that dissertation that Micah Parsons puts out on Twitter through the Notes app. He said, I can't even put all this into a tweet. I got to put the Notes screenshots. Talk to me about how you're feeling. Is this just another run-of-the-mill classic contract scenario where it'll eventually get done, or is this more worrisome than usual?
You sure you don't want to start with Simone, the Super Bowl champ? I mean, I'll sit back and be quiet if you want. Simone, feel free to take over, Oh, my God. Here we go. All right. So, Micah Parsons in this contract situation. Now, Jerry had spoken the open night of our training camp about Micah Parsons. And I think the thing that really was a gut punch for a lot of Cowboys fans, self-included, is that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, who was his son, who was the co-owner of the Dallas Cowboys, they haven't even picked up the phone yet to start the negotiations, right? So I feel like that's why a lot of Cowboys fans are starting to feel a little antsy about this, because when it was Dak Prescott, there was some back and forth. When it was CeeDee Lamb last year, there was also back and forth between the agent and the Dallas Cowboys organization waiting on, Justin Jefferson to get the deal. But they haven't even picked up the phone to talk to Micah Parsons' agent, Dave Mujeda, which is one of the best agents in all of football right now. So I think that was disheartening. But I think the thing that really led to the blow-up that we're seeing right now is not the negotiations. It's the blatant disrespect that Jerry Jones is not only doing to Micah Parsons, but also other players and Micah's other teammates. So Jerry talked about Micah. He laid a few jabs about it for the opening presser when camp started. Micah and Trayvon Diggs spoke to the press shortly after their first initial practice saying, hey, I don't play for that man. I play for these guys, because Jerry Jones was questioning, well, maybe I shouldn't have signed Trayvon Diggs and maybe I shouldn't have signed Terrence Steele. And all these guys did was go out there and just tear ACL trying to perform for your organization. So I felt like the slap in the face of the players, that's what really got Micah in his feelings a little bit, because he is now, quote unquote, the leader, right? We all kind of knew he's one of the best players when it comes to Dallas Cowboys defense in this roster, but now they put him in a leadership role specifically, and he's leading his own way. So I felt like he's putting his foot down, saying, hey, I get what you're doing. The negotiations, business is business, but let's stop with the extra. Now, here is the weird situation, right? I guess that Micah had met with Jerry Jones back in March. They talked about Brian Schottenheimer, some things that he would like to do with this defense, right? A new leadership role. What do they need to win to win a Super Bowl to compete with Simone's Eagles? And they were having that conversation. But you have to know, when it comes to Jerry Jones, there's always an ulterior motive. And so it kind of snuck in. Well, you mentioned all this stuff, Micah. Well, what about the contract? Like, how much would you? And so he started the contract negotiations, and Micah probably foolishly engaged back and forth with Jerry Jones, right? But then Jerry Jones took it as, oh, we had a deal. We agreed of this price. This is what we're going to do. Everything was set in stone. Now, I grew up watching one of my very favorite movies, which is Jerry Maguire. Nothing is set until it's signed, right? But Jerry Jones, in his mind, feels like they spoke about this in March and agreed to it. So he is not going to sign Micah to another deal, because he's trying to hold Micah to what he said verbally back in March. And it's this weird thing. So like you said, Z-Bot, Micah put out this post. I'm not reading too much into it, because Micah Parsons is literally out there at practice right now. So it was one of those situations you say, you know what, I no longer want to be a Dallas Cowboy. I want to be traded. I want to move on. But you're at practice right now in an 11 jersey. So, I think it's just a contract dispute, but I think the deal gets done. But this is going to be an ugly relationship moving forward between the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons, and we'll see how it all shapes out.
Real quick, I want you to elaborate on that one specific part, because that's, of course, what stood out to me the most. We've seen this before. But for Micah Parsons to say, I no longer want to be a Dallas Cowboy, we're kind of watching Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa walk back things that have happened this offseason between those two, Tyreek Hill in particular, and then Tua, of course, kind of calls him out. They've been doing some walking back here. This feels like one of those things, despite getting a contract done or not, where it might be tough to walk it back, at least from the perspective of Jerry Jones. Was that one thing, even if the deal does get done, was that one thing you looked at and you're like, man, he really went there, really made it known, like, I'm going to put an exclamation point on me doubling down getting this contract.
Yes, this is uncharted waters. I know a lot of people say, hey, you know, Dallas Cowboys always wait last minute. Hell, we signed Dak Prescott right before kickoff week 1 last year. But this is the first time a player has vocally and publicly went at Jerry Jones in the front office and voiced a displeasure when it comes to negotiations, and also saying demanding a trade. So this is a different situation. When you go back to the 90s, Emmitt Smith even missed games, right? But he didn't really go at Jerry in the front office publicly and social media, right? So this is going to be interesting to see how this all works out, because you know the number one thing when it comes to Jerry is that ego, right? And sometimes he might just pull, you daring me, bro? And it might just get ugly just out of spite. So I feel like this is going to be a situation where it could linger on, because I feel like Micah Parsons is now playing for the guys in the locker room, rightfully so, and Brian Schottenheimer, but not so much with Jerry Jones. But we all know what Jerry Jones and that ego can do. We saw what happened with Mike McCarthy to even Jimmy Johnson. The list goes on and on. So he won't hesitate to make a statement if he feels pressed.